What are you doing?
I'm getting my steps in. Every time I bounce, it's another step.
This is my life.
We're in competition with each other, and I can't let him beat me on steps. What are you doing?
Cheating like you.
Well, I'm still being active, so there we go. How accurate are these things, huh? I don't know. Do you guys have one? I have a Fitbit. He has a, what do you have?
And I use Garmin.
Yeah. I think mine's better.
Sometimes we're all wrong.
Yeah, so how accurate are these things? I wouldn't say they're super duper accurate. Obviously, I can get my steps from bouncing on a yoga ball. However, I'm still being active and not sitting still, and it's accounting for that. So that's kind of good.
I think my steps are pretty accurate because I actually have to move for a pretty significant amount of time in order for it to count, and then it'll base my heart rate off of how many steps it'll give me for like back taxes, I guess. It's kind of a way of looking at it. If I have the GPS set and I'm doing an activity like walking or hiking or running, it is super duper accurate for me. Like one of the things that I really liked about this thing is I used a pace count for it to be able to judge how many steps I was going to be using. So when I first got the Garmin, I walked a quarter mile, I ran a quarter mile, and it used the amount of steps there to kind of be able to calculate what I will average moving forward.
All right, so mine's not that fancy, but it is kind of cool because I don't have to set it to anything. It automatically knows when my heart rate's up. It automatically tracks it and says, hey, you're on a walk, or hey, you're doing aerobic activity, or you're doing sports training. So it kind of knows by my heart rate, and it automatically keeps track. I don't have to set it to say like, hey, I forgot to set it to a workout, now it doesn't count. It automatically tells me, unless I forget to charge it.
And the only one that mine really knows, which is super creepy, is it'll tell me that I went on a walk with the dogs. Based on the speed and the route and how many times we stop for them to do dog things.
Yeah.
It's pretty creepy.
So it's got a good memory. They're great for when you want to lose maybe a couple pounds or if you hit a plateau. So say you're averaging 10,000 steps a day and you want to up that, you can set your goal to be 12,000 steps a day, so you know by the time you get home from work that you have another 2,000 steps before you meet your goal. They're also great if you're in competition with somebody,
It'd be a lot cooler if you had a Garmin though, so we can make it different.
And then you can just have a little bit of friendly competition going. And you can up your steps there. It also does a calorie count on how many calories you burn throughout the day. Kind of accurate, and nobody knows for sure. Just remember, we usually overestimate our activity levels. We usually underestimate how much food we intake through the day, which brings me to another point. These can hook up to MyFitnessPal, or I can even download on my Fitbit app on my phone. It lets me log my food right in here. So it says, hey, you've ate 3,000, or you've worked out 3,000 calories a day and you're under by 600 calories. Again, not super accurate, but you can gauge a little bit like, hey, I'm gaining weight and I've been using this. Well, maybe you need to lower your calories a little bit.
You can get pretty scientific with it. Like you can link this thing in and you can track all your activities so you know how many calories are going out. You can connect it to MyFitnessPal, so if you're really accurate with your diet and with your tracking of your food, you can figure out how many calories you're bringing in. And then you can link it all up to like a master app if you have an iPhone, which I think is way better than Android. We'll probably argue about that too. But I mean, you can get pretty scientific about what you're doing with your body, and as long as you're diligent about what's actually going on and you realize that this thing is probably going to tell you that you're doing a little bit better than you actually are throughout the day when it comes to calorie expenditure and when it comes to actual steps, then you can figure it out. But I mean, if you have a planned route, if you want to make it more of a habitual thing, you know that you're walking 3 miles when you go on this route. So even if you forget to charge your whatever watch you have, then you know that you've got that taken care of. And a great way to figure that out is by having one of these watches or having one of the apps so that you can track the distance.
Yeah, and there's some fun things on here too. It gives you some exercise ideas to do. It gives you some relaxation tips. We'll talk a little bit more about that relaxation and those techniques in the third it tracks your sleep as well, and the better you rest, the better your stress level is, the easier it is to lose weight. So that's important. So you can kind of like, hey, I have had a rough couple nights sleep. What have I done differently? What do I need to change? What habits do I need to change to get my sleep a little bit better?
And that's a pretty interesting thing about mine too, is it'll actually track my stress level throughout the day. So it'll let me know how stressed out I am. What that's based off of is my movement and my heart rate, which it monitors constantly. So it lasts about a week, probably 5 days. We'll say 5 days if I don't charge it, just with those baseline measurements that it takes all the time. But it'll literally tell me when I wake up, like, hey, you recharged your body battery this much. It might not be a bad day to chill on the couch and not do anything. I never really get away with that. But it's interesting to see it, as long as you don't commit it to yourself where it's like, oh, my watch says this is how I feel, so that's how I must feel. It's kind of an interesting baseline to be able to figure it yourself out over the long term.
And it calculates your resting heart rate, which is important. The lower your resting heart rate, typically the healthier you are. So if you're starting this program and you have a resting heart rate of 70 or something like that, and a couple months from now you see it lowers, that means I'm doing my job and you're doing your job. So look for your resting heart rate, change in resting heart rate as well. Any other fun tips you have on these?
I mean, they are only as functional and as useful as you make them. They're cool to have. I mean, kids like them for the pedometer, like I walked this many steps, or I did this, that, or the other thing. I mean, you tailor it to whatever you want. If you know you're going to be doing a whole lot of different activities, some of them will be able to track those, some of those won't. If you just need it for a baseline for your health and fitness to improve over the long run, I mean, there's a lot of really great options that aren't that expensive.
Yeah, so there you have it. So what I'd like you guys to do now is go to our private group and post what you use and why you like it.